Hello everyone, my name is Pierre Mahieux and I'm presenting SABLIER, a tangible interactor to navigate through space and time inside a digital environment. This is work done with Romain Biannic, Sébastien Kubicki and Ronan Querrec at the ENIB Engineering School and the Lapstick Laboratory in France. History of Science and Technology studies the spatial and temporal evolutions of technical systems on multiple timescales. The first scale represents long-term evolutions and is centered around the notion of landscape. The second timescale represents the short-term evolutions of studied systems and relies on the notion of procedures. Results of historians' work can be exhibited in museums for cultural mediation applications. On one hand, museums use more and more new technologies such as tangible user interfaces and virtual reality to attract more visitors and make their exhibitions more engaging. On the other hand, using new technologies allow visitors to explore digital reconstructions of past environments and navigate through space and time. Previous research and propositions about spatio-temporal navigation did not allow for multiple scale interaction, and few of them proposed to use TUIs. Given the multiple advantages of tangible user interfaces in the context of cultural mediation, we propose a new interface allowing users to navigate through space and time on multiple scales. In order to propose an interface that would be relevant, we set up a co-design process involving cultural mediation experts. This process consists of two collaborative workshops. The first one was to identify and define a set of functionalities that would allow users to navigate through space and time in a digital environment. And the second was to propose tangible interactors to carry out the functionalities identified previously. The first workshop involved 16 cultural mediation experts. They were asked to write user stories involving spatial and temporal navigation. From these user stories, we deduce 11 elementary functionalities, 7 of which we consider primary. They are directly linked to spatial or temporal navigation and were involved in most of the user stories. These functionalities allows the users to interact with the speed of time inside the digital environment, navigate between different time periods that we call landscape, and navigate spatially inside these landscapes to observe different parts of the environment. Users can also interact with the procedures. They can navigate in the course of a selected procedure or start its simulation in the virtual world. Functionalities number 8 and 9 are considered secondary. These are functionalities that are not as essential for spatio-temporal navigation. However, they allow users to access information about the landscape and superimpose them in the digital environment to compare them. Finally, the two last functionalities are not involved in spatial or temporal navigation. Therefore, we consider them to be optional. The second workshop involved 16 participants. 2 of them were cultural mediation experts and the others had experience in psychology, human-computer interaction, design, and engineering. They had to propose low-fidelity prototypes and interactions to navigate through space and time on multiple scales. In the end, 11 prototypes were proposed. Some of them took inspiration in everyday objects associated with time, whereas others were designed as generic interactors. In order to identify which interactor from the 11 proposed we should implement, we set up an evaluation involving 10 cultural mediation experts. The experts had to evaluate each prototype according to 2 criteria, affordance and usability. This evaluation was carried out in 2 phases. First, participants had to fill in a questionnaire. We then conducted interviews to gather complementary qualitative data. The quantitative evaluation did not show any significant differences between the prototypes. However, we were able to draw 3 guidelines from the interviews. First, the shape of the interactor should be linked with time. Second, the interactions should remain simple. And third, each interaction should be associated with few actions and functionalities. Taking these guidelines into consideration and adding engineering criteria, the prototype which stood out is an hourglass-shaped interactor. This is why we propose SABLIER, a tangible interactor to navigate through space and time inside a digital environment. We propose 4 interactions: tilt, based on the natural use of an hourglass, tap, move, and rotate. In order to make these interactions possible, we equipped SABLIER with different electronic components: an inertial unit to sense SABLIER's tilt angle, inductive sensors to notice the tap interaction, LED strips to simulate the flow of sand inside the interactor, and the Raspberry Pi Zero to control these components and communicate with the digital environment. SABLIER is a 3D printed 16 cm high, 12 cm large hourglass-shaped interactor. In order to link our functionalities to SABLIER, we propose to couple SABLIER to an interactive tabletop that will allow us to display a graphical user interface. This interface allows us to give more information to the users, and the tabletop allows us to propose more diverse interactions. For example, as with a real hourglass, we propose to change the speed of time in the digital environment by tilting SABLIER. Another example, to navigate between landscapes, we propose to move SABLIER on the graphical user interface and validate this interaction with a tap. Finally, in order to immerse the user in a virtual environment, we propose to use a cave. In order to assess the acceptability of our proposition, we set up a user evaluation involving 25 participants, during which they could interact with our interface and a virtual environment showing a former bridge in Brest, France. We let the participants use the system without any time constraints and ask them to fill a questionnaire consisting of 2 parts assessing the perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use of our interface. Results show that the participants largely considered our proposition to be useful and easy to use. Moreover, SABLIER is rated as good on the system usability scale. To conclude, we set up a co-design process involving cultural mediation experts to propose a new tangible user interface allowing spatio-temporal navigation in digital environment. The result of this process is SABLIER, an hourglass-shaped interactor. Thanks for listening. Please reach out for any questions.